Hey everybody, this is Sheets, and this is my analysis for the MMA card for this Saturday, May 15th. As you guys might know, I'm in the finals of this MMA big qualifier thing. It's been going on for months. Already in the money, down at the final 25, and the winner gets 100,000. So I'm gonna have to come up with one lineup on my own. Obviously, I can't give you guys what that is. I'm not even exactly sure what it's going to be as of even at this late date. I have a good idea, and I'm kind of 1 2 by 2 kind of a way. It's a really interesting GPP type card for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of fighters under 9K that you can play, and there's not that many over 9K that you have to play. So it becomes very, very interesting. There's also a couple of key fights that you're going to have to get a piece of, and there are probably 3 or 4 fights that everybody's going to be, are going to be the battleground fights. Like there's someone that's going to get all 5 of the battleground fights right. And so it's not as if, it's not as if think someone's going to win it on their own. I do think there are people out there that are going to get the battleground fights right. But I do think it's a good card. I think that everybody's going to, definitely some fun fights. One of the reasons why it's kind of interesting, and we'll get to the key fights in a second, like you see like Andrea Lee, for example. Like Andrea Lee is almost a pickup. I mean, she's barely an underdog, like plus 105. Yet when the line opened, it was like minus 200. So they put Andrea Lee at 7K. So it's just a clear, right, misprice from a value perspective if you're just looking at the win odds, right? But the thing is that it's not just about the win odds. I mean, you have to be able to get points not just from winning sometimes, but be able to rack up fantasy points. So it's not that simple to say, she has equity. Yeah, she has good win equity relative to her DraftKings price. But it's not like it was, remember, like maybe a month or 2 ago where there was a guy who was in the same spot, yet also had good finishing upside. Here, Andrea Lee really doesn't have great finishing upside. So it's not as if, she's going to win you the GPP. And the other thing is that, for those of you who have been around, you might think, well, but if you could play a great value play at 7K, even if that one doesn't like smash, doesn't that open up like some of the more expensive things? But the problem is that there aren't like a whole lot of expensive options that you really want to get to, or that you need to get to. Like Gina Mazzani, for example, she's the highest priced fighter on the slate, and she's not really projecting to be, have that many DraftKings points. And likewise, Shevchenko, obviously, well, just to illustrate a point, 9,200 is not really projected to have a lot of DraftKings points. Chiagos, is not projected to have a lot of DraftKings points. I mean, you look at the, he's a 190 favorite, but the inside the distance prop is brutal. I mean, he's a big favorite to just kind of just grind out a small decision there. So a unanimous, boring 60-point decision. So the question is, what are you getting if you do play the Andrea Lee? Okay. And so that's why it's not that simple just to say I'm playing Andrea Lee because she's necessarily great value. Like a better example of someone who's extreme value is if you go to the main event is Michael Chandler. So like Michael Chandler, for example, likewise is only like a plus 110 underdog, right? But he is 7,300, 7,500, is that what it is? Hang on, fight number. Yeah, so he's only 7,500, and he's got incredible finishing upside. He's a finisher himself, and this fight rates to be one of the shortest fights. And if it doesn't rate to be short, right? See, the over under 1.5 rounds about $1.50, and minus 185 to be under 2.5 rounds. And then if that doesn't work out, you have like the big 5-round, floor. You know what I mean? Like if it does go to decision. So he is a better value than, let's say, Andrea Lee, for example. And everybody's going to know that. But, I think that's pretty instructive to see the difference between two like really good values. So to cut to the chase, I mean, there are 2 fights that everybody's going to be needed to get a part of, and that's going to be the Oliveira Chandler fight, which is, as I mentioned, the main event. Both guys are relatively cheap. They're both under 9K. has a really good inside the distance prop with the 5 round, floor, so to speak. So everybody's going to probably get 100% of that. It certainly makes a lot of sense. I guess Chandler would be the better value, right? For the reasons we just discussed. But, he's probably going to get more ownership. So I think that you should probably play 50% of both, which is probably what I'm going to end up doing. So the other fight that people are going to play a lot of, and this is a little tricky, so Jordan Wright and Jamie Pickett are just two really, really bad, I think, what are they, middleweights, light heavyweights, and they're really bad, and they have no chin, and they have no defense, and they both have fought really, really questionable competition. And the thing is that the inside the distance prop has this really finishing in the first round, or within 1.5 rounds. So, and both guys are 8,100. So you have two cheap guys relative to, everybody, a lot of better fighters. And one of them just rates from a mathematical perspective to just be, to get, 100 points, right? And at 8,100, you're just going to need that to win a GPP. So, and this is no secret. I think everybody's going to play one of these two. One thing I will say is that although Jordan Wright looks to be a slight, tiny bit of a favorite, right? All the content that I've looked at, I haven't found a single lead towards Jordan Wright. Literally everybody every write-up you come up with is coming up with Jamie Pickett, which to me makes it a little fishy. I would probably lean Jordan Wright for just for that reason. He's got to be pick him for a reason, and for no one to like him at all in the DFS community seems a little fishy. So I'm probably going to go Jordan Wright, in probably more lineups than Jamie Pickett, but I am going to have 100% of them. But the key battleground fights that people are going to have to get right are the following. So first of all, Soriano Giagos, I'm fading in its entirety. Aguiar Lutz, I'm fading in its entirety. You have like a terrible inside the distance prop. It's not going to be very jam-packed with points. Fading them both. So this Gina Mazzani fight is somewhat interesting because, like I said, she I think on a median projection, she might project to be right below the main event. And people are not going to want to play her because in a way you don't have to. Like when you do some lineup constructions, you'll see that you don't even have to pay 9,200 for anybody and still get good fighters with good chances. So you have a situation where you might end up her being lower owned than someone in that position might be otherwise. Now there are routes where she can lose. I've seen people predict that Priscilla could have, could finish her in the first round at 6,900 or something. And if that's the case, you're certainly going to want that. But Gina Mazzani is trained by that same guy, not Derek Krause, James Krause, who we've been targeting all of his guys over the last couple of months, and he'll have her ready. I think she's probably safe to win. And the thing is also is that she's, probably going to go for takedowns, which is what we'd like to see in DFS. So I think the combination of her win odds and her takedown routes and good trainer, I actually do like her a little bit. You're going to be able to build lineups without her though. And so in a way, it's going to seem a little more uncomfortable to play her because you're going to be giving up some pretty cool fighters in doing so. But I'm going to have some of this. Leave Shevchenko, I discussed. I don't want any part of Shevchenko. And I'm probably not going to play Andrea Lee for the reason I just mentioned. Even though it's good win odds value, I still don't think that she, even in a win, she generates enough points, it's not that she doesn't generate enough points. She doesn't open up enough. You know what I mean? You could play lineups without her and get there. So it's not as if you need the Andrea Lee salary savings to get this done. So we're going to get to Grundy in a second. I think that two of these fights are very similar. So the Grundy-Venata fight and the Souza-Muniz fight, they're similar with respect to price. They're both, have the favorites in the mid eights. The thing is that Souza's, you have that old person narrative, right? I mean, he's pretty old, but he's fought better competition his whole career. And this Muniz has not been tested at all. And the thing is that Souza could win a really boring decision, but Muniz also, I guess you could make the case, could get a submission, but I doubt it. But Souza is definitely a play that people are going to want to play. So I think that I think I like it. I like Souza. I think that the experience is going to matter for him, and I'm going to use him. But then you have this Mike Grundy, who's in a similar spot from a line and whatchamacallit and price perspective, but he's got that wrestling upside. Like he's like a pure wrestler, and he's going to be chasing Lando around like the whole cage, just trying to get takedowns. And apparently Lando has gotten taken down by guys much worse than Grundy. So I think from a DraftKings perspective, I do prefer the Grundy side to the Souza side. That's not to say you can't play both, but so I'm going to be playing Grundy. I'm not going to be playing Fanata at all. With respect to the Souza fight, I'm not going to be playing Muniz. Okay, so these next, well, 3 of the next 4 fights, people are going to have to play, and they're going to need to get right. Forget the Kukijin fight, okay? And we already talked about the main event, right? You're going to need to have everybody over there. But these next 3 fights is going to really be what separate the men from the boys, so to speak, okay? So Schnell Bontorin, Barbosa Burgos, and Dariush Ferguson, they have 6 fighters that could put up points, okay? 6 fighters that have upside, 6 fighters that can break the slate. And you also have 6 fighters in there that could end up, underperforming. And all 6 of these fights, all 3 of these fights, all 6 of these fighters are going to probably have a lot of points. And even though they don't have the inside the distance prop, right, for the early round knockout, I think all 3 of these fights are going to involve such activity that the points are just going to kind of pile up. So these are the ones that you're going to have to get right. And I'll give you my opinions, but I think that you're going to have to shuffle and guess. I mean, really, that's the best I can describe. I think you're really going to have to play all 3 of these fights and just get the right combination. And so I actually have a little bit of a lean towards Bontorin over Schnell as the underdog. And the reason why is in its last fight, people might look and they'll see, he got knocked out by Kai France. Bontorin was killing him. I mean, he was like within 1 centimeter of the guy submitting in the first round. And then like the referee just kind of like, Bontorin thought that the guy had submitted, so he kind of got off him or something. And the next thing you know, Kai France has knocked his block off. So it's kind of a fake loss. So he's aggressive. I like him a little more than Schnell, I guess. Burgos Barbosa, again, both guys are a lot of striking upside. They're both, they're both really exciting. I do prefer Burgos because Burgos has just a lot more volume. And he could take a punch a little bit. And not to say you're going to win a GPP on this, but I think in a loss, Burgos can score well, because they could have a big striking battle and Burgos could, get a lot of significant strikes and end up losing. Where I don't think Barbosa can win in a loss, can do much of anything in a loss. So I'm going to play both these guys. Just, I wish I could give you my lean. I guess Burgos would be my lean over Barbosa. And then the Dariush Ferguson fight, again, really exciting. You have the up-and-coming guy. Well, not even up-and-coming, he's 32, but he's, definitely on the upswing. And Ferguson, the last couple of fights, has really shown that he's kind of on the downswing. But yet Ferguson's, tricky. He's, he's really good, and he's got a lot of experience, and he has tricks. So I think both these guys are going to get owned. Both these guys deserve to get owned. Both these guys have finishing upside, and you're going to have to play one of these, I think. So my lean is towards Dariush, but I certainly am not going to falter playing Ferguson. So essentially, what you're supposed to do, what I'm going to do, and what I think a lot of people, I guess, are going to do, is you're going to play one guy from the Chandler fight. You're going to play one guy from that Pickett fight, okay? And then you're gonna try to get these combinations somehow, right? And I mentioned Mazzani before, not to give you like full lineups, but I mean, again, it's probably no secret that if you do want to play Mazzani, then you probably want to do that if you like some of those other underdogs in those key fights I mentioned. And then you have to figure out whether you want to include a Souza or a Grundy in your mix. Now, as you'll see when you'll build lineups, you'll see that it's really, I don't say pricing soft. I will say that you can play a lot of lineups. Like we've been through, several weeks where you can't even play lineups you're comfortable with. You're going to play plenty of all your lineups. I'm telling you, you're going to like. You're going to feel the slightest bit uncomfortable with any of the guys that you have or girls that you have. Not to say that you're confident you're going to win, but you're not playing like these like just cringy underdogs, just praying they stay in it. You're going to be playing good fighters. So that's my take on the slate. Wish me luck in the big one, and hopefully you guys all do well in your GPPs this week.